Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 11. This is another busy episode we have on our hands. Let's see, we will upgrade the coal mining storages to the big ones, so we can stop things backing up, and thus halting the extraction of that critical resource. We will also build a small glass making facility near the desalinators, since we have the salt and the acid right there, so we only need to bring in a couple more things. And most importantly, we will also get started on building our permanent smelting operation. Well, one of them at least. It is a tiny bit more involved than the smelting setup we built earlier. We can now process the raw ores a bit to increase their yield. And we will also get started on recycling, but that's all we will do. Before we get started, if this is not your first video from this channel, you already know what to expect. If you want to be kept up to date, please consider subscribing, and if you like what you see, leaving a like will also help letting me know what to focus on. But enough talking, let's get into it. First, let's fix a big potential source of problems, namely the water line coming off the main bus toward the town water supply. It's backwards, since I started placing it from the wrong direction. Now it should be okay. And I also gave the water tank its own name, and an alert to let us know if it goes below 75%, so we get some advance warning if we are starting to run out. Now, between episodes, I did rethink this approach to putting water on the main bus. I would feel better if we used a dedicated pipe right from the start, instead of splitting off of the farm's own pipes. I'm fairly sure I will have at least a few people complain about this, so there, it is now being fixed. The thing is, as I'm editing the video, I already have 2 episodes in the can. The new workers and resources update could drop any day at this point, so I would like to give myself a head start on that. In fact, I have a strong suspicion that it will be out by the time you see this. Anyway, that should do it for the main bus water line. It is now being fed straight from the tank. And we just unlocked greenhouses. Guess what material we need a lot of to build those? Glass. I will get on to making that in a second, but I did want to take care of something important, namely the storages around the coal mine. Since we are digging the rim around the pit, we pick up a lot of dirt, sand, and stone in the process, and if we let the drop-off points get backed up, that could result in the trucks getting stuck, trying to unload those materials, instead of getting what we really need, coal. So, how about we replace all of the default storages with the really big ones? Also, I did just notice that the belt segment I rebuilt is only tier 1. The power plants will manage until the next episode, but we will absolutely need to replace it. That takes care of the usual suspects, coal, dirt, and stone. But we still need to store sand, and I suspect we will dig up a lot of that before we're done, so let's expand that one too. Next, I decided to not bother with the occasional choke points in the downstairs mining, and instead just create a small spiral pattern in the existing designations. That will ensure we keep digging down there, so we still get a lot of coal, but I really want to get the rim done. That should ensure that only a couple excavators are able to dig down there at any given time, and the rest will be busy working on the edges of the pit, getting us ready for the retaining walls. In hindsight, I really should have just leveled out the surface deposit first, and only started digging down once I had the walls in place. Live and learn. So, with that out of the way, let's get started on the glass making. Apart from the obvious benefit of not having to trade for it for our vehicle upgrades, we will need a lot of that stuff for other projects, like the greenhouses, and for the tier 3 townhouses too. How about we channel the slag right in the middle? Something like that. And I think we can safely move the glassmakers closer to the furnaces. As you know, I like things being compact. Since trucks can still reach over a couple belts, we can safely place the output warehouse in front of the slag collector, and belt the glass into it. And with the output side done, let's do the inputs next. The actual thing we need to melt into glass is made in the mixer, from sand, salt, and limestone, and with a little extra acid, it is a bit more efficient than it would be without it. We have the salt right behind the mixer, but we still need to bring in the sand and the limestone via trucks. Oh, and of course, the furnaces will need coal to heat up the glass mix. Thankfully, acid can be piped in straight from the place where it's made, it's right next door. This is why I build this here. The only really long distance delivery is the coal, everything else is relatively close. Okay, not the sand at this very moment, since the original sand digger is inactive, but you get my drift. We only need 2 more aggregate storages, one for sand, and the other for limestone, and we are ready to build this thing. Let's try to Unity build the belts and pipes first, so they are ready to go once the buildings are done. Same as with every other furnaces, we will prioritize melting the recycled scrap glass first, and only make new stuff if that is not available. Remember kids, recycling is cool. The thing about this rim, I am only digging enough to reveal the outside edges of the deposit. After that, we will need to dig out one more tile to be able to place the actual walls. That will generate a lot of waste materials. I just want to get the outline done first, and worry about that problem later. And at this point, the biggest bottleneck in our construction efforts is the Tier 3 parts. The thing is, we have a lot of the other 2 stored away. We could help by adding these extra pieces of belts as a sort of release valve. I will show you what I had in mind once they are done. To be able to keep making the construction parts, we should restart the brickworks. The concrete setup is a bit slow, so it needs the help. Get ready to see those momentary fuel alerts today. It's not really an issue with our fuel supply, that thing is perfectly adequate. The problem is that the tree harvesters are pretty far away at this point, so their assigned trucks are using a lot of fuel, and sometimes they take a moment to get their bearing when trying to refuel. Also, get a load of this. The ship was upgraded with the new bridge, and now it looks like a proper warship. Let's celebrate by sending it out on a new mission. I only sent it to a node we already explored, but is surrounded by unexplored ones. With the new radar systems, we can look into those nodes to see what's there. Just like that. We have 2 pirates, and a wrecked cargo ship to look into. Nice, we just found soybeans. Those will come in handy later. Okay, about these extra pieces of belts. As I've said, we can use them as a sort of release valve if we need to. If we don't want to use them, we can just pause them, but if we want to release all the Tier 1 or Tier 2 construction parts for upgrades, we can unpause them. Since we need Tier 3 parts these days, I did just that. Okay, we really need to build that sand storage now. We have a lot of trucks full of sand waiting to drop their load, and we need them to be working instead. But we don't need to sit still while we wait. We could start planning the advanced furnaces instead. Let's move the main bus line a bit, just to make some room. So, these are the advanced furnaces. They work pretty much the same as the old ones, but they also have an extra recipe we can use, which makes them a bit more efficient. We can feed them with crushed metal ores, which gives us more molten stuff than it would otherwise. In the Tier 1 furnaces, we input 24 iron ore, and get 24 units of molten iron out. These will take in 36 crushed ore, and output 48 units of molten iron. Sure, it needs a tiny amount of limestone as well, but it really is a tiny amount, only 3 units per minute. To finish the output side, we just need to place a warehouse to receive the finished iron plates. If we put the warehouse there, we can double the setup if we ever need to. Now, let's do the input side. Unfortunately, I did make a mistake by mirroring the furnaces into these 2x2 configuration. That will prevent me from doing something neat with the input belts. I am pretty much doing the same thing I did with the main bus. Instead of stacking the input lines on top of each other, I laid them out in parallel lines, separated by a single tile. But, as I've said, I did make this arrangement unworkable by mirroring the furnaces. If I didn't do it, we would have had enough space to do it, but alas, I did mirror them. The problem is the slag output lines. They prevent the input belts from going up to the incoming bus lines. I tried to see if maybe we can do this by moving the slag into the first line, but to no avail. Nope, it's still just one tile too close. I really didn't want to redesign the furnaces, so I just decided to go with the usual stacked belt setup. We only need to deal with 4 lines, so it's good that we can go that high. And of course, the slag will go on the bottom, completing the stack. It's still a pleasing arrangement, but I've been experimenting with the other one between episodes, and when it works, it looks really cool. Oh wow, that sand storage got full real quick. But hey, as long as we don't get any more trucks idling at the tower, we should be okay. The lack of coal is a bit concerning, but it should just be a matter of time before it start filling up again. Anyways, let's get back to work. We still need to deal with the input storages. And we need 5 of those. Well, 4, since one will be for the slag, which is an output. One will be for coal, another for the limestone, the next will be for the crushed ore, and the last one is for the recycled iron scrap. Those last 2 can be moved on the same line, they cannot really cause each other to clog up. Now, we need to deal with the crushed ore. It obviously comes from the crushers. One furnace can take in 36 per minute, and as luck would have it, the output of a single crusher matches that number. So we need 4 of them. And we can simply feed them straight from the mining storages by belts. But, we still need to keep the existing setups working until the new one is ready, so we need to set the belts up accordingly. Just to preserve the pillar positions, I carefully placed the splitting points where those were, so once we delete the old smelters, the pillars will be unaffected. Uh-oh, the lack of coal is starting to affect our water supply. But, it seems the mine is starting to catch up, so it's only a matter of time before we're back to normal. I think we can move this whole thing a bit closer to the iron deposits. Not too much though. I still want to leave a bit of room in case we need to build that second set of furnaces. Here looks okay. If we do end up building those extra buildings, only a tiny bit of iron would be sacrificed. I think I'm okay with that. I think this is pretty much ready to be built at this point. And look, the glass setup is finished. We have homemade glass now. Say goodbye to those annoying trades we had to do. And the vehicle part factories are hard at work already. Might as well add some extra into the queue. I could swear these deposits moved since the last time I checked on them. It seems dumping the dirt over them disturbed them somewhat. Which is interesting, since one of the features of the update was that dumping one material over another shouldn't really cause the existing ones to start crumbling. Maybe they behave differently underwater. Anyways, we should take these new borders into considerations while planning the retaining walls. You know, I think we can designate the trees on the other end of the island right now. The harvesters will stay at their current position, and will only really move over once they are finished up there. Well, I see no point keeping the new furnaces paused at this point. The construction parts are starting to build back up, so let's get started. As usual, I will quick build the belts, so they are good to go once the actual buildings are done. Obviously, it will take a lot of tier 3 parts to build all that stuff, so let's open the valve on the lower tiers, just to speed it up a little bit. We could also help out by giving the concrete facility a Unity boost. And before you ask, the reason why I don't just expand it, is because the trees are in the way. Once those are gone, we will build this out a bit more. To prepare for that at least a little bit, we could upgrade the pipes and belts though. And now that I think about it, maybe we should send one of the tree harvesters to this area. There really is no reason to keep them together. While not strictly necessary, we might as well upgrade the copper mining trucks. It seems I forgot to turn off the coal-based rubber making process. And since we only use sulfur at this point, we don't need to have this wastewater pipe anymore. How about we go and take care of that other group of pirates? They are weak enough for us to deal with them. At this point, I think we can restart the sand digging operation. The coal mine storages are set to be emptied out at priority 1, so they will be made empty sooner or later. Those are 2 more pirate nodes. According to the difficulty numbers, I think we can only deal with one of them unfortunately. Well, time to release the tier 1 parts again. I really don't want to just leave it open and leave it, I would just forget about it if I did that. Here, I decided to redraw the main bus markers with the dumping only designations. I remember dismissing a notification since I used the leveling one, and that ended up complaining about mining outside tower areas. Also, since we managed to level out the terrain here, we can continue drawing it a bit further. Technically, we could get started on upgrading the farms to greenhouses, but we will need a lot more tier 3 parts for that, so let's wait a bit. We could also upgrade the desalinator coal storage, so we have a bigger buffer. I suppose we could also add an alert for that one. Maybe I'll do that one day, if I don't forget it. Before we said goodbye for today, I really wanted to get started on recycling too. At this point, we have 2 sources of mixed scrap. The maintenance depots, and the research labs. The maintenance is a bit more aggressive with its scrap output, so I gave it an extra storage, so trucks don't need to come for a pickup too often, only when they can do a full run. And the recycling happens in the waste sorting plant. It works a little bit differently after the update. Before, we had separate outputs for all scrap types. Now they come out from a single port. We can reclaim 4 types of scrap: iron, copper, glass, and gold. So we need 4 storages to receive them. And this updated version means we have an excuse to use one of these. The belt sorter. They will let the mixed belt pass through, but pick out the scrap type we tell them to put aside, and push that out on the second output, which goes into the relevant storage. So, we need one to split off the iron scrap, the next one will do the copper, and then we separate the glass from the gold. The thing is, the recycling plant needs 400 construction parts. That's a pretty steep cost, and with the advanced furnaces under construction, I don't think we can afford it right now. We will build everything else, but we'll keep the main building paused for now. It seems our iron production is struggling a bit. Let's give it a unity boost, so we can keep it chugging along until the new setup is completed. This did put us into the red in terms of unity generation, but it's very much temporary. I just want to make sure we keep making construction parts at full speed. We have a couple trucks trying to move iron ore. I guess we had some in the dock. We can just let the mining storage accept outside traffic. Oh right. It was from the time we did the belt rebuilding. That did put quite a few units of that stuff into the shipyard. I'll just leave that storage open to the public, at least until the docks are empty. And the coal mine's rim digging operation is over the last big turn, and it is a relatively straight line to the finish. We did good progress on this one today. Well, I think this is it for today. I believe it is time to start upgrading our construction factories, so once the new furnaces are done, that should be the next thing we do. Not just upgrading the factories, but building more of them. And after that, we can move on to the other smelting facilities, one for steel, and another for copper. After that, we will need to move the power plants a little bit. The current ones are right on top of the main bus markers. I did want to fine-tune the pipes anyway, so it will be a good excuse to do just that. Then we can also upgrade the farms to greenhouses, not to mention the coal mine. The outer rim project is nearing completion. Anyways, if you haven't done it already, I'd love it if you subscribe to the channel, and leaving a like would also let me know that this video was worth making. If you feel that it was good enough, and you can afford it, please consider going to my Ko-fi page, which you can find in the description, and donate an amount that you feel is appropriate. And if you did like what you've seen, there should be links to some of my other videos and playlists on the screen. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you in the next one.